Hello and welcome to another episode of My Backstage Pass. This is your host, Lee Zimmerman, and I'm here with my producer, co-host, and very good buddy, Billy Hubbard. And today we're very, very excited to welcome Sue Foley as our guest. Hello, Sue. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Great. Sue, I know that you are Canadian by birth. Do you still live in Canada? I'm curious.
No, I live in Austin, Texas.
You're in Austin. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, you've been the pride of Canada regardless because you've won so many awards for your work. So I'm sure that our northern neighbors are very proud of you and don't feel like you deserted them, even though you're in Austin.
No, I honestly spend so much time up there. I'm on both sides of the border. It's hard to say where I live sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, I love my Canadian.
There you go.
I
have some Canadian friends, and I love the Canadians. They always say, you Americans, and I say, you're Americans too. We're part of North America. Why do they call the people in the States Americans when the Canadians are also technically Americans? I don't quite get that, but anyway.
I know. And Mexicans are American.
Yeah, that's true. Anybody in this hemisphere is American. So Sue, you have a wonderful new album out, One Guitar Woman, which offers a tribute to all your predecessors, all these wonderful women who really established the template for guitar. And some of them are known. Some of them were kind of obscure and not known. But this album really brings them to light and gives them the attention that they deserve. So we're curious, how did this concept come about with you? What made you decide to do this album, and how did you pick the artists and the songs that you wanted to cover?
Okay, well, I've kind of, I think back now that I'm out touring this album and talking about it a lot. I think back to, when did I start working on this, and really it started as soon as I decided I was going to be a guitar player because I didn't plan this project per se, but I've always, as a female player, I knew I was different, especially back then. Now it's really not as much of an issue as we know. It's pretty common, and there's tons of female shredders.
Yes.
But even when I started out, there wasn't. And when I was just getting on the scene, I could count on one hand how many I knew personally, and then through the years it's really blossomed. But I've always, even as a little girl, when I knew I was going to play guitar, I just made a note of every time I see a female guitar player. And so I've kept track over the years, and I did an interview project. I'm still working on my book about women in guitar. I just got my doctorate on the pioneers of women guitar players. Cool. Yeah, so I've been kind of, hacking away at this on many levels and many guises for decades. But it's passion, it's curiosity, it's passion. It's just wanting to shine a light on the tremendous, I think a lot of women don't know that the culture of guitar is theirs as well. And this isn't to take anything away from guys it's not competitive. It's really just to be like, hey chicks, we've been here all along, maybe not as many of us, but there are some that have been, really exemplary and have left huge legacies, and they need to be recognized. And I just think, I always say these are the women whose footsteps I walk in.
So were these artists people that you knew from the beginning, or did you discover them during your own journey? I mean, how familiar were you with some of these particular artists that you cover here?
Well, I would always pay attention when I saw one. So Charo, who I tribute, she's the only living person in this document that I tribute. She's the first woman I saw really play the guitar, and that would have gone back to when I was a little kid watching variety shows. I'm sure we all remember Charo. how she
Yeah.
popped out and jump around and coochie coochie and everything. And then she would play her guitar. And I was, as a little girl, I think that just completely transfixed me. Like, wow. Because I always saw the guys playing guitar, and I'm from a family of guitar players. I talk about this a lot, but, my brothers played and my dad, and I knew I would play. So I was always like, it was Charo was the first. And I always wondered, why I love Spanish guitar so much and why I play a flamenco guitar, especially on this project. And then later on, when I wanted to be a blues player, it was Memphis Minis. That was it. I
Cool.
knew I was going to be a blues guitar player. I fell in love with blues.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Canada. I'm in Canada. I'm a white little girl in Canada, and I'm thinking, I'm listening to Muddy Waters records, going, how am I gonna make this work? There seems like a long way to go to get to Muddy Waters. And then I realized, and then I discovered Memphis Mini, and I was like, oh my God, this is a woman who did this in the 30s and 40s and played lead guitar and just kind of paved her own way. And
Yeah.
she's always stuck with me. Like, she was the first that, as far as my career goes, that I've just carried with me. And these people are like, they're like beacons, they're like, they're like beacons to me. They're like, you could be out drifting and you could be going, well, wow, what do I do? I'm listening to a Memphis Mini song and you could hear the answer.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Charo first and foremost. I mean, I remember seeing her on the Tonight Show and some of the talk shows, and I remember she was pretty brilliant, but mostly it was kind of this kooky personality that came to the fore. I mean, people really, yeah, they saw her playing guitar, but that seemed to be sort of a spin-off of her personality, so to speak, as a talk show guest or something like that. So it's it's pretty astute of you to recognize her talent, and for that matter, the talent of all these other wonderful women too. So you're really doing a great service by bringing their music to the fore, so to speak. It's really a wonderful thing.
Well, it's really my pleasure, and I've wanted, I've worked on this for a number of years. There's a lot of different guitar styles and things I've had to learn and get under my belt. But it really is a passion project, and I just find them, even beyond just being females or whatever. I realize that's the theme, but they're just interesting people. They did interesting things, and they didn't have the role models that we do.
Right.
So
Right.
they were self-created, which is, makes a really interesting character. So I really wanted to focus on that, and their contributions. They all make unique contributions in music.
Well, when I knew that we were going to be speaking with you, one of the first questions, even before we listened to the album and realized the album was out there, was to ask you what it was like to be a guitarist in what has been traditionally an exceptionally essentially is the word I'm trying to get, essentially a man's domain. And as you say, now there are a number of exceptional women like yourself, but traditionally, even, and there were some great women that sang the blues, but being a blues guitarist was traditionally, back in the day, more of a man's domain. So you, as much as any of these other current women, really kind of brought that forward. I think there's a question in there. I'm not sure if there is, but you know what I'm getting at. Was it intimidating at all in the beginning when you started out? You said it was a little challenging, but did you say, well, I'm going to have to break the glass ceiling and work my way and get acceptance into this world? Was that part of the journey, so to speak?
Kind of, like when I was growing up with my three older brothers, it was a long time before I even realized I was any different from them. I mean, as I was a little tag-along kid, and I was always doing boy things, and I was tomboy, so I didn't really, it never really occurred to me, except every now and then they would say, like, buzz off, girls not allowed, kind of
Oh
thing,
no! Oh
Yeah, well, that's
no.
the way boys are, and it's okay. But in the world of guitar, I just loved it so much. I mean, you couldn't have stopped me if you tried. I mean, I had the same passion that any guy player has, that just
Mm-hmm.
falls in love with the music and decides, well, this is my path, and I'm gonna follow it. And I've interviewed a lot of women players, and most of them said the same thing. There really is no difference. It's sometimes you get treated differently. Um, and there are some things that become easier and some things that become more difficult, but I think it kind of balances out. I think it's not an easy way to make a living, let's put it that way, if you play guitar for a living. But um but the thing that drives you is the same as anybody, and that's kind of where I chose to focus. And I was really supported. I was so supported and encouraged. People thought it was cool. Hey, that's cool. This little chick wants
Mm-hmm.
to play.
It's very cool.
So
You females have, I guess you got the whole brain. We just don't. We just have half a brain. I mean, we
Well,
think with
speak
one
for
side.
yourself. Between Billy and I, we have a whole brain. Individually, no, maybe.
Emotionally, I mean, just having partners. I know that, and I imagine, I thought, well, maybe a female would play out of the different part of the soul than a guy. Maybe, I don't know. It's just a weird theory I had. So I thought,
Mm-hmm.
well, and I learned that when I went to Austin, and I landed in Austin when I was 21, and I mean the blues was on fire then, and we were hanging out with all the legends and playing, and nobody ever looked at you like you were a girl or boy. They just, if you could stand up there and hold your own,
Yeah.
then you belonged up there. If you couldn't, get down. So it was like that. There was a lot of great females in Austin at the time. Not all musicians, but there was some really strong players already, and I had some good role models.
oh, you certainly hold your own. And this acoustic album is incredible. I love it too.
And
Thank you.
Billy is a musician himself. Just put out his first album last year, so he knows of what he speaks. He knows of what he speaks.
I know when it looks impressively hard, difficult, some of that, but especially the way you took on this record. I mean, how you kind of morphed into these different characters in your style. I'm not sure how to word it, but I could tell that you were really, you must have did a lot of studying into each of these artists.
A lot
Yeah,
of
I did.
research, yeah.
A lot of research, a lot of very specific guitar styles I had to learn. So I feel pretty happy that I was able to pull it off.
So your first album in 1992, I think, set the tone, marked what you intended, young girl blues. You kind of said, okay, this is me, here I am. And now we come, I'm doing my math, 32 years later, and you're a one guitar woman. So the circle seems to be complete here. But it's, I've read that you recorded this on a single acoustic guitar, and yet you have such variation in here too. It's amazing that you accomplish what you accomplish. Oftentimes you'd see people changing guitars and switching things up, and you stuck to your single guitar to do it, right?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to do that. I got that guitar specifically for this project. I love it's a flamenco guitar made in Caracho, Mexico, handmade, and went down there and met the builders. It was a whole
Wow.
pilgrimage to go down there. It was such a cool place. It's a town in Mexico that was founded by Spanish luthiers. They designated
Wow.
that the specialty of the town would be luthiers, and it's fantastic.
Man,
I
that's
mean,
cool.
They all make guitars. Everybody's, plays guitars. It's just a complete guitar town. So I got that guitar, and I decided I would do it all on that guitar. I love the flamenco, and I think it sounds good for all styles, actually, and it kind of shows it off on this album that you could play country blues, you could play finger picking, you could do some harder scratch, you can, mess around with it, do some Spanish guitar.
Well,
It all sounds good.
well, and so too, your vocals are so expressive and compelling. I'm reading in the press release that was sent out that esteemed music writer Hal Horowitz wrote some wonderful things. I know Hal,
Oh,
and
cool.
I communicate him with quite a bit. I have to text him now to say, Hal, you've reached the rank of an esteemed music writer. I'm kind of
How
jealous.
cool, how
I'm a
cool.
little bit bitter that he's being referred to as esteemed here, but nevertheless, Hal made note of your vocals and how expressive your singing is, and how you really bring the personalities of these different women to the foreground. Which can't be done simply by covering a song rote. I mean, you really go the extra depth there to bring these people to life, and that's a very special thing about this album, I think. And congratulations for being able to do that.
Well, thanks. That's nice. And I didn't want to do just a technical display of, hey, here's the Carter scratch, here's this, here's that. So I did choose songs that resonated with me personally, and I feel like I could kind of get inside and live inside them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You've become an iconic figure in the world of modern blues, and the awards that you've won, I think, just reflect that fact. No, I mean, you've won Juno Awards, the Maple Blues Awards, the Blues Music Awards, the Coco Taylor Award twice. And I think that's a remarkable accomplishment. It really is. But I'm curious, and I ask artists this oftentimes, when you've received so many accolades, and you've reaped so much attention and so many awards, it puts you on a very high plateau. But then when you move on to your next project, do you think, wow, I've really got a lot to live up to here. They expect a lot from me. I mean,
No, I don't.
no? Okay. You don't
No,
intimidate yourself, in other words.
no, not at all. No, not at all. But thank you. It's always nice to get acknowledged, and I always just feel like they're acknowledging my work, and it's nice that people like what I do. But no, I don't. When I'm thinking of a new project, I'm only thinking about that, and I'm thinking about how to make it good, and
Mm-hmm. Okay.
how to make it unique, and make it my own.
Well,
So yeah.
well, how would you have a number of albums that you've released over the past 32 years, and so how would you describe your trajectory, your evolution as far as the music that you make, and kind of your understanding of what you want to do? How would you describe that trajectory? Have you, you know?
Um, blues music takes a while. I mean, I think I was did some good stuff on that first album, Young Girl Blues. I think
Mm-hmm.
you can hear my personality there. You hear a young girl. And I think over the years, I've just kind of kept, shining the same rock. Really, I still play with the same guitar. I mean,
Great.
I did Pinky's Blues and Live in Austin Volume 1 right before this One Guitar Woman acoustic album. I was using the same guitar I used on Young Girl Blues. So I really am not much different. I'm still trying to do the same thing, only getting deeper and, better at it. I think you just keep shining a stone until it glows, like, I don't know what else to say about blues. It takes a while. It takes a while to become yourself, and you have to have life experience, and and you can't do that. You can't fake that,
Well, exactly.
You have to live that. You have to live that, and that takes time. So, I mean, ideally a blues player just keeps getting better and has more to give their audience. And that's what I always loved about blues is that as the artist got older, you kind of felt the richness of their life and
Right.
depth of their expression. And I was always just I'm always looking for that, like.
Well, it's such blues is such a revered genre, and of course you had the pioneers or the modern pioneers because blues goes back quite a way. But you have people like B.B. King and Muddy Waters and Albert King and all these people that really laid out the template. So the question is, how do you stay true to that template, but then add your own personality and maybe move things forward? Is that a fine line trying to navigate between the classic and the contemporary?
Totally. And that was very well said, because it is a very fine line between, being too much of a traditionalist where people think, oh, it's kind of stagnant, you're just rehashing the same old thing,
Right.
to where you're getting so far away from it that you're losing the structure of the music. Like blues is got a structure to it, I mean, it's a blues is a blues is a blues,
Right.
You can't just play a rock song and then call it blues. That's not
Right.
blues. But they do, and they do it all the time now. And you're like, well, maybe people forgot what a blues is supposed to sound like, because B.B. King passed away. Buddy Guy is about to retire. I mean, all the old timers are gone, and there's not a lot of young people who are super traditionalists. And like you say, it's a fine line, walking that line of, I got to carry on the form or the theme of the music without bastardizing it and turning it into something it's not,
Right.
Although it does merge with other forms of music so well too. It merges with rock, it merges with jazz, it even merges with Latin, and blues is just such a beautiful pure structure. The
Right.
1, the 4, we want to be specific. We're going to talk about the 1, the 4, and the 5. The 1, the 4, and the 5 in a 12-bar format. That's a blues, basically.
Well, in every genre and every style of music, you have people that are purists, and they say, no, it can only be done that way. And we don't want to hear any innovation. We don't want to hear anybody adding to it. I mean, there are people that would look at, if Jimi Hendrix was around today, would say, no, can't have him, not blues. So you do, I'm not saying you personally, but there are times when there's pushback, and that happens in any form of music. That happens in bluegrass and country, what have you. So have you ever run into people that says, no, you should do it this way. We only want to hear it this way.
Oh, yeah. They used to call them the blues Nazis.
Yeah, the blues Nazis. Yeah, exactly.
But, it's like we say, it's a fine line between protecting an art form or a tradition, and then being so protective that you prevent it from growing.
Right,
so,
right, exactly.
And it's really people but I do believe a blues is a blues is a blues. You got to be able to play a 12-bar blues. You should be able to play a slow blues. If you can't play a slow blues is a slow blues. Write your own lyrics and make it yours, and it's timeless. It's like putting on a little black dress and a pair of pumps. You could do that.
I've never done that, by the way. I don't know. I can't relate to that, Sue.
A nice black suit or whatever. It's like, I know, very good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that. You could do that in 1950. You could have done that in 1930. You could do that in 1980. You could do that in 2000. It's a structure. It's like what they call, it's like basics, basics. So,
right.
Blues is basics. It's real basics.
And at the same time, I suspect that when audiences go to see you, in some cases, maybe I think you're educating them. Maybe they're not familiar with blues, but they go to see you or an artist that, is playing modern blues. And maybe it brings some appreciation for the old masters that maybe they just were not aware of before. I mean, it happened back in the 60s when a lot of these British bands came along, like Hendrix and Savoy Brown and 10 Years After and John Mayall and Cream, and they were playing for a contemporary audience. And at the same time, many people in their audience just were not familiar with the roots that they were gathering in that regard. So it actually does pass it forward in a way, I suppose. I mean, have you had people come up to you afterwards and say, I just didn't know about this, and you turned me on to this whole style of music I was unaware of before?
I get that a lot, but I get that mostly with the One Guitar Woman show because
Okay, yeah.
it is more of I do talk more about the artist. In my own show, I just do a lot of songs.
Okay, all right.
Try to have a good time. I don't talk about it too much, We might say this is a song by so-and-so, but I also write my own songs, so.
Yeah, of
course.
But
in One Guitar Woman, I get a lot of, I never knew that I never heard of Memphis Minnie,
Wow. Yeah.
I didn't know Maybelle Carter could do what she did, and that's really good. I'm happy about that.
So the day after we're taping here, you're about to embark on a tour. Where are you going? How long will you be out on the road? And will you be focusing primarily on the new album? That's a 3-part question. You can't answer with true, false. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm going out. I'm
no
going out
multiple
west.
Choice.
We're going out west. I'm starting in Salt Lake City at the Utah Blues Fest, and then we head out to Colorado. Then we go to Arizona. Then we go to California,
Wow.
And then we circle back. We've got Texas dates in July, and in August we're up in the Eastern Seaboard and in Canada. And I'm touring both albums, actually. I'm doing a lot of dates with the band. Primarily, I'm out with my band, so I will do a breakdown part of the show where I'll do a little tribute to the female pioneers. I'll do that, break it down, do some acoustic. But then I also have some solo shows booked as well. So,
okay. It sounds like you're going to be out for a while, though. You're going to be out on the road for a couple of months at least, right?
Well, we're in and out all summer till September, and then we start up in October and November again. So
wow,
we're working till right through the year, which is great.
Again, I ask this question a lot. Do you like the touring and the traveling? I know it's wonderful on stage, but in between you got to catch flights, you got to get in the bus. I mean, do you enjoy that routine still? You've been doing it for a couple of years anyway.
Couple of years. I've been doing it for 30 plus years. It's all right.
You started at the age of 2, though, didn't you, Sue?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to work it here. I'm trying to work it.
Thank you.
Yeah. But do you still enjoy the touring process and that lifestyle and being out there and about?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Okay.
I love moving around. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
There are artists that say, when I'm on stage, I'm playing for free. You're paying me for the time in the airports and on the bus and that sort of thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the harder part of the job for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. There's challenges and there's sacrifices.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sue, I'm curious. Out of this group of pioneer women which was the most challenging to emulate as far as the guitar work?
That's a good question. Maybelle Carter's Scratch was surprisingly challenging, and she had several guitar styles. So she was really an interesting character to work with because she had her, country Carter Scratch, which is very specific, and it's kind of a counterintuitive style where you do this strumming pattern with middle fingers, and then you're doing the bass line and the rhythm and the melody with your thumb on the bass string. So it's kind of, it was just challenging. Like, she's so solid too, like her time and everything. So
yeah,
I found that it took me quite a while. I was surprised because it looks so easy and it sounds so simple, and you're like, oh, this is easy, I got this. It's like working on it going, oh my God, what was she doing?
I thought the same. Well, it's funny. Well, my mom had a band in the 40s and 50s, and so they toured around and were with the Carter family some. And so when I was
Oh my God, how cool.
what's funny is when I was a little boy, well, I don't know when that little, I guess I was probably 12 or 13. I remember she was just teaching me the rhythm, and I was listening to, I had heard you know how you do that. I say, doing the, I had the little bell in my head. And anyway, one day I just started copying what she was doing, which was easy for me for some reason. And she said, "Where did you learn that?" And I said, "Well, I just listened to that woman there." It was Maybelle. And so she said, I didn't know there was anything special about it. But anyway, that was kind of funny. And we just, right before we started talking to you, we were talking to John
McEwen.
And we was talking about Maybelle.
Late of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Yeah, John McEwen.
Oh, yeah. How cool.
So it's kind of funny, Maybelle coming up twice here.
Yeah,
that
Mother
is
Mabel.
So cool. My God, you're so lucky you got to see her. I'm so in awe of her.
Well, she was on the Will the Circle Be Unbroken album. So
yeah,
John was telling us about her reaction and, what it was like working with her. So that's pretty cool. History, witnessing history. Yeah.
Well, that's actually the song we had this song queued up. So how about we give it a spin here?
Mabel's Guitar. Okay. From the album One Guitar Woman.
Yeah.
It launched a million dreams, it saved a million souls. In the midst of the Great Depression, it stirred through the old Dust Bowl. In the darkest time, it was a shining light, constant as a northern star. Few things ever burned as bright as Maybelle's guitar. From Texas to Canada, America in every part, XCRA radio filled our homes and hearts. The Carters sang of the life of man with true and simple songs about a world so beautiful and a world gone wrong. Like a clenched mountain stream flowing from the source, powerful as a freight train rolling right on course. No matter how we stray or how far we roam, the sound of that guitar brings us all back home. They sang in times of need to the forgotten and forlorn, and her Carter scratch rang out through an old Victrola horn, where a young boy sat with dreams of being the next great country star, as he learned to pick out every tune from Maybelle's guitar. Like a clenched mountain stream flowing from the source, powerful as a freight train rolling right on course. No matter how we stray or how far we roam, the sound of that guitar brings us all back home. The sound of her guitar brings us all back home. Yeah.
Oh, that's so lovely. That's so lovely.
Oh, that's cool.
That was, I guess, you have songwriting credits on two of these songs. That song is credited to you alone, and it really captures the emotion and the feeling of listening to Mother Maybelle. It's a beautiful song, Sue.
Yeah, great
Wow,
job.
thank you.
It
Thank
really
you so
is.
much.
Great
Oh,
job on guitar too. That was great.
Yeah, just fantastic. I mean, this album is in a sense, at least as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of a change of pace for you to be doing this. I mean, you've been known as a fine blues performer, but this album is kind of a change of pace here, right? I mean,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
yeah, that,
Tackling a bunch of different styles.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it says that in the liner notes that this really had an effect on you, not only musically but personally as well. It really went deeper as far as you were concerned. Can you talk about that a little bit? The effect that this had on you?
I mean, it's just, it challenged me musically, first of all. It's that it helped me grow as a musician, because I was learning these different styles and then really being specific about my studies, my guitar studies, which was great. And it really stretched me. And then also just, I think, standing in the shadows of greatness
Mm-hmm.
and trying to find my own place in it and my own place in the legacy of these women and the history of guitar. It's humbling to stand with your heroes and try to morph into their styles and stuff like that. So that, I think I just grew as a musician and found it really inspiring overall.
Well, I think if you're very successful in causing interest in these women, because
Oh, yeah.
it's caused me to start researching. I'm still going to keep researching more.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will. And, it also makes you realize the obstacles that they had to overcome to get the credit, to get the attention, to not be ignored, because when many of these songs were originally recorded, unfortunately, women just were not. They were not treated with the respect that they deserve. I mean, I went to an exhibit at the Country Music Museum in Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia, and they had an exhibit about these pioneers of country music who were just taken for granted, and people said, "Oh, that's not their place to be doing that," and so to give these women the due attention they deserve is really a wonderful thing, to pay tribute and bring them the attention they deserve. So congratulations for doing that. And
Thank you very much. And it's also cool to put them all together, like you asked about why you picked the women you picked.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
these are all these women all did kind of unique things and made a unique mark in the culture of guitar. But it's nice to see them in one document where you can kind of go, oh wow, there was a classical player named Anita Presti, and then you've got Maybelle Carter and Lydia Mendoza, and they kind of all were doing this around the same time, but it's in different parts of the world, and different styles of music, which is really cool. And I really found that interesting,
I love it. I love having it simple. I just listen to this one, and I got such a good variety.
yeah.
Right, and each one is the Pandora's box. If you actually start looking into their bodies of work individually, you're like,
Oh,
whoa, holy smokes,
A lot of rabbit trails there. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, is there any risk involved in going back and doing material by these classic artists? There a risk in the sense that people might look at it and say, "Oh, I know the original," or a risk in the sense like, "Who are these people? I don't care." I mean, was there any risk at all on either side of the divide?
Well, I guess there is, but I
didn't
there's
think
always
about it.
there's always a risk.
Yeah.
There's a risk for a young little girl from Ottawa, Canada, to want to play like Muddy Waters, but
Yeah. Yeah.
So but you just follow your passion, and it's really just the love of it that keeps you going and keeps everything feeling good. And you don't really worry about that, but
Good for you.
so I've only had, I've really mostly, as far as I know, only heard good things about this album, which I'm really,
Oh yeah.
really happy with, because I didn't know when I put it out. I thought, oh God, people might just laugh and go, huh,
Well, that's the
you
risk
thought
I'm
you
referring
thought
to.
you could play classical. I mean, yeah, I'm sure if a real classical player came to my show and goes, your technique sucks, but I'd be like, well,
Oh,
yeah, but I'm
nobody would say
I'm a
that.
blues player.
Nobody would say that,
They
but
might. But
there's always those that stick their nose up and say, "Oh no, it's got to be true to the original. You can't take any deviation at all." But you can't pay attention to
Those
that.
classical players are depressing anyway. I don't like to listen to them.
Well, you have to move the music forward. That's the bottom line. I think.
I just say in context, I don't know many classical players who can pull out a blues song at the same time. So then
Oh yeah.
I feel like I'm safe that way.
Yeah, there you go. By the way, I have to note one of my particular favorite albums by you is He Said, She Said, where you recorded with Peter Karp, who's a friend of mine. He's a great guy.
Cool.
Yeah, he's a great guy. You did well, and then you did Beyond the Crossroads with Peter. So
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, if you
Cool.
see Peter, say hi to him for me. He's
Likewise. Yeah, I haven't seen him in years. but
yeah.
Likewise.
He's terrific. So what's next for you? You're on tour, you have the album. You mentioned earlier that you've already got another album sort of that you're planning here, right? What's the next
The next
project?
album will be a full band album
Mhm,
of probably
okay.
original music. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very
Yeah.
good. And when might we expect that?
I don't know.
Okay. All
I
right.
never know.
All right. We've got
I'm gonna
enough
work
to
this for a while. I
satisfy.
got tons of stuff to keep me busy, but we're working on it.
All right, we're greedy.
Yeah.
We always want to hear more Sue, so we're a little
Aw,
greedy.
thanks.
We're jumping ahead. Well,
Well, we keep things going, we keep it going.
well, absolutely. You have a wonderful track record. You've been very consistent over the years in terms of your releases. So thank you for this wonderful music that you do, and for bringing the blues forward and taking us into the past, and just it's timeless, as you yourself said. It's timeless. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, my pleasure.
And, we wish you safe travels, continued success with the album. And thanks for taking the time. I hope we didn't take time away from packing the bags or.
No, bags are
Okay.
packed.
All right.
Just gonna get my hairs cut.
All right. Well, we didn't want to
We'll
take
be
away
good.
from that. Heaven forbid, we don't want to take a lady away from the hair thing. So.
Yeah. Big thanks to Sue Foley and our host Lee Zimmerman. And check out Lee's new book, 30 Years Behind the Glass, about Jim Gaines. It's now available on Amazon. And please like, share, subscribe to my Backstage Pass on your favorite platform. And we'll see y'all next time. Happy trails.
Happy trails.